and are told it's not their time. Or they're allowed to view a part, but not all, of heaven, and are told they must return to their life on earth. Finally, they're suddenly back in their body. The final part of the experience happens after they recover. They're unable to describe the depth and intensity of the love on the other side, because human language has no words for it. Often, they stop trying to describe it after they find that most people deny, dismiss, or ridicule. Finally, their experience, which is totally real to them, changes the way they relate to themselves and other people. Their lives are impacted forever. Thousands of cases have been recorded, and they have many things in common. Now, no two descriptions are exactly the same. The description we just gave includes all the common elements. Some experiences may lack some parts or change the order of the parts. How many parts of the death experience that they have depends upon how far into the experience they went. The being of light, the review of their life, and the questions they've asked are always present in all positive death experiences which last long enough. The various parts of these experiences are supported by biblical scriptures, particularly in the New Testament. The New Testament offers several verses which add meaning to the various parts of the death experience. Perhaps that's because the Old Testament does not try to describe heaven or the experience of going there, although a few verses do support it. For the most part, it wasn't until Jesus put it into human terms that we find relevant verses. Jesus told us that the kingdom of God is like and what God desires of us. We'll go into some of those relevant Bible verses today. And let's begin with the parts of the positive death experiences and their Bible support. One of the first things is when people leave their body and find themselves floating above or near it. They report that they become aware of having a spiritual body. Here's an interesting part. Their spiritual body is perfect, without any illness or defect. An accident victim told how he laid on the highway and saw his severed leg laying away from his body. After his spirit rose above his body, his spiritual body had all its parts uninjured. People who were totally blind were able to see and describe what was happening around their body, who was there, and what the people were doing and wearing, and things around their body which were later confirmed as true. One person was born colorblind, yet everything they saw in their entire lives were in shades of gray. Yet after they returned, though their body was still colorblind, they accurately described the colors of clothing and other objects they had seen in the room while they floated above their body. Those who were physically crippled in some way had fully functioning spiritual bodies. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 42 to 44 says, "So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption. It is raised in incorruption. It is sown in dishonor. It is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power. It is sown in a natural body. It is raised in a spiritual body." Everyone reports that their spiritual bodies are perfect, although some say their spiritual body was a little bit different from their earthly bodies. Perhaps the most universal and striking element is the being of light and the nature of that light. All positive death experiences that go far enough encounter that being of light. They describe the same elements of the experience and have the same description of the being of light, regardless of their religious backgrounds. 1 John 1 verse 5 says, "This then is the message which we have heard of him and declare unto you, that God is light." John 1 verses 6-7, "There was a man sent from God whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe." In John 12, verse 36, Jesus said, referring to his limited time on earth, "While ye have light, believe in the light, that ye may be the children of light." Ephesians 5, verse 14 tells us, "Wherefore he saith, Awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light." Matthew 4, verse 16 adds, "To them which sat in the region, in the shadow of death, light is sprung up." Many people who return say that the being of light is Jesus, and some use the word God. It's important to realize that the person experienced the being of light in their spiritual body, not their physical body. And that's why they're not blinded by what is universally described as unbelievably bright, beyond any brightness of the physical universe. In Exodus, Moses is told that no living person can see the face of God and live. However, both the death experiences and scriptures tell us that we both have a natural physical body and a spiritual body. Each has different abilities. Our physical body can interact with the physical world in ways that the spiritual body cannot. The spirit can go places and do things the physical body cannot. We're more than just a body. This difference is mentioned in at least two scriptures. First Colossians 15, verse 50 points to one of them. It says, "Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God." Ecclesiastes 12, verse 7. "Let the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return to God who gave it." It's a return. The spirit cannot return unless it existed before the physical body's death. After death, we inherit our spiritual bodies, which are perfect. 1 Corinthians 15, verses 35 to 52 include these statements. "But some man will say, How were the dead raised up? And with what body do they come? There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial.
No!
The glory of the celestial is one. The glory of the terrestrial is another.
Oh, my
It is so in
heart!
our natural body. It is raised in a spiritual body. There's a natural body, and there is a spiritual body. In the twinkling of an eye, the last trump,
Why
for the
would
trumpet
they
shall
do
sound,
that
and the
to
dead
you?
shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed.
What the fuck?
Another part of the death experience is when the being of light shows the person every act and thought they had in their life, and how those things affected others.
Oh my
They're told to review the events of their life, their actions and thoughts, and judge it all. Ephesians 5, verse 13 states, "But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light." Luke 8, verse 17 says, "For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, nor anything hid that shall not be known." All accounts report that the communication does not use spoken words. It's a thought transfer, a direct transfer of communication, spirit to spirit, that cannot hide anything nor be deceptive in any way. It is absolutely truthful and complete, no matter who is communicating. Jesus told us to watch your thoughts. One woman recalled, "Not a problem for me, because I'm trying to tell you this because all the words I know are three-dimensional. And of course, our world, the one we're living in now, is three-dimensional. The next one definitely isn't. And that's why it's so hard to tell you this. I can't really give you a complete picture." This life review passes very quickly, almost at once, but everything is included and seen, and then we're asked to judge. The being of light is totally forgiving, but many people report that they felt tremendous shame at what they saw in this review. The goal of this review always seems to be so we'll see our lives clearly and learn important lessons. 1 Samuel says, "For the Lord is a God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed." The statement, "actions are weighed," supports this description of the life review. It also brings us to another part. Questions asked by the light include how well we've learned to love and what knowledge we've gained during our life. What kind of knowledge? The sense is that it's partly about how the universe works and the wisdom and knowledge of the holy. Proverbs 4 verse 7 says, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Proverbs 2 verses 6 and 10 declare, for the Lord giveth wisdom, out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. When wisdom entereth into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul. In part, for out of his mouth includes both direct revelation and